all of a sudden the exposure is vastly different. And so I want to be able to change that quickly. All right, here we go. We got a coot heading towards the sun. Look at this. See what the aperture priority does for me? It just automatically goes up. I have a little bit of negative exposure comp dialed in, and then bam, right there. Wait for him to swim into that sunbeam. And then he goes into a background that's a little bit more graphically interesting with these dead snags back there. Wait for a good profile, warm it up a little bit in post, and you got a great shot. All right, I did go back to the silhouette side because some bufflehead flew in there. You can see how high and bright the sun was. And then watch this. All of a sudden, they're going to take off. Watch the focus. It doesn't track perfectly. See how it's a little off? But it didn't matter. The photo was tack sharp. So the focus actually was working. I think it's just the focus indicator didn't keep up. Look at this. Now look how much blurred the background is because he swam towards me. I ditched the teleconverter. Look at this. You can just see him right there off to the right side, swimming in between the grasses there. So now that he's closer, look how pretty that background is. It's beautiful. Switch the teleconverter and get a head-on shot like that. Hey, good morning, everyone. All right, so just wrapped up a wonderful morning out here in Texas on this relatively small lake, trying to photograph some waterfowl. Me and Emily had a great morning. Beautiful clear skies, nice sunrise. I feel like there's a little bit of haze humidity cutting the power down today. It's working better than yesterday. We were here yesterday morning. It was colder, crisper, and the sun got harsher faster. So I think today was the right choice to come out here. Anyway, I did some eBird research to find this area, and I'll show you how I did that in just a minute. Didn't know exactly where to shoot it. I'm here at Choke Canyon State Park in Texas, just about an hour and a half south of San Antonio and a little bit northwest of Corpus Christi. I knew I was planning a trip along the Gulf Coast with Emilie I, and I wanted to find a spot that was going to be warm enough that it would be comfortable to stay in the van. So we were trying to do warm weather stuff. Emily had agreed to let me pick the spot, so that was pretty cool. So I was just doing my own research and picking my own spot. And the previous spots we hit were a bunch of locations along the Gulf Coast in Florida, and then we stopped in Louisiana. So the last place I wanted to go to was Texas. I had never been. So this is how I ended up there. I wanted to go to Texas. I wanted to find a place to go. And so I came here to eBird. I clicked Explore. You go to the Explore menu, into the hotspots, and then I zoomed in on Texas. So like I said, I knew I didn't want to go too far north and chance it being cold. So I wanted to stay along the Gulf Coast. And I was initially thinking, let me stay like on the actual coast shoreline. But then I realized, we had just done, I think it was like 3 or 4 days along the coast. And honestly, all we'd be probably getting is similar or the same species as we were getting in Florida. Maybe a couple of others, but we had both photographed them before. So I kind of wanted to try and do something a little different. So I was staying along the Gulf Coast here. Didn't see anything great there. And I'm just looking at the range map. There's kind of a hot spot there. But again, that was really coastal. And then I kind of meandered interior here just a little bit. So I had just kind of decided, let me stay down in these areas instead of getting like up into here. Because I know there's a lot of different stuff, as you go further north and stuff like that. So I wanted to stay down here. And so as I zoomed in, I saw this red spot and I clicked on that and I just went to view the details. This came up. Now, I was researching this, I don't know, probably in, I don't remember when I planned this, but something along the lines, it was like fall of the year prior to going, basically. So probably about 5 to 6 months before going there, something like that. And so I was just looking to see what had been reported there around that time. And I also wanted to make sure it was going to be interesting there. So I went to the bar charts. Once I saw there was a lot of ducks, I thought that would be kind of cool. I knew I wasn't photographing ducks in the winter this year because I was not going to be staying in New Jersey. And so I thought that would be kind of fun to do some waterfowl photography. I knew Emily had never done it. And so I thought that would kind of mix it in. So this was part of my research to find this spot. And I thought it would be really cool to go into a new area, having never photographed it at all, having never been there at all, and seeing if I could come away with some good waterfowl photography. I knew that would be a challenge, but I thought if I put my techniques into practice my normal methods, that it might work out. So I knew we were going to be there in January, so I was basically just looking in January to see what was reported there. And look at all these ducks. Tons of great ducks here reported, you know. And I ended up seeing, let's see, we saw blue-winged teal. Didn't see cinnamon teal, unfortunately. That would have been really nice. I don't think I saw black-bellied whistlers either, but did see northern shuffler, gadwall. Don't remember about widgeon. Definitely saw mallard. Pintails I think I saw once. Canvasback, redhead. These were high on my list too. I love these ducks. I think they're stunning. And so, yeah, seeing them and finding them was definitely high on the list. Seeing cinnamon teal was high on the list too, so that was definitely part of the reason going there. But I think when I got there, I kind of forgot about them. I wasn't really targeting any specific species. We were just looking at locations once we got there. But that was it, guys. That's how I did the research, right? So eBird was really helpful. And I could see that there's like good reports of these birds there at that time. So, for example, if I was specifically trying to photograph some redheads, which were high on the list, like I said, let's go. If you click on this little graphic right there, the line graph for the red-headed duck, this can give you a better idea of what you're really looking for. So let's go with just January. Okay. And now I get to see, I think this is January for all date ranges, which is cool. So I get to see like how many are reported. So this is the frequency of reporting, which is basically how many eBird reports are, I think it's how many, right? Let's see. Oh no, it's a percentage. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's the percentage. I don't understand that one actually when I view it like this. Here's the number of checklists. So if you point to each one, you can kind of see like there was 20 checklists that day. If we go to abundance, that should give us the count. So 4 that day, 2, 2, 10, you know, nice spike there of 29. So it starts to tell us a little bit more about how often that species is seen there. I think if we go here, change date, let's do January. Yeah, January, all years. Okay, that is what I was viewing, just making sure. And then you can also see high counts. So look, like 100 reported that day, 20 reported that day. So you can see in January, there's like good numbers being reported when these eBird checklists are being submitted. And that's just like a nice helpful thing. It's not like it was just 1 or 2 ducks, you know, being seen. The frequency, I'm not totally sure. How is it 550%? I thought I used to understand that one, but not understanding it fully. And you can see like the thinner the line, the more rare it is at that time. So it's getting a little bit heavier in January. Basically all winter, they're around there, you know? So looking at these charts is definitely helpful for understanding not only what birds are there, but how many birds are there, how often they're there, and kind of seasonally when they're there. All right. So that's what I used. And so at that point, I planned and got a campsite at Choke Canyon State Park, and we had a blast. We're pretty far south. It's pretty warm. It's about, I think this morning was like 50 degrees when we started. It's definitely warmer now. It's going to get pretty warm today. And breeze is picking up now, but it was breezy right at sunrise, but then it calmed down. The water mellowed out a little bit more, which was nice. You can see right behind me, it's not too bad, but if you were able to see out this way, it's a little bit more ripply and rough, which is not great. Calm mornings are the best. You get better reflections and all that. We didn't get great reflections or anything like that this morning, but did pretty decent. Anyway, ended up getting a lot of fun species. A lifer for me and Emily this morning was a least grebe, which were in these cattails right behind me here. And we were laying right here. I'm going to show you the whole setup here in just a second and why I picked this spot and basically everything I'm using to photograph these waterfowl. So, did the eBird research, knew the waterfowl were here. Emily and I came to this lake yesterday morning, so we kind of scouted. Yesterday was basically a scouting mission. We're out here scouting because we're going to try and come back here tomorrow morning for ducks. And we're scouting, so this area right out in front of us here that you're seeing, right over here to the left, is good because we can get low, but it's a small window to shoot through here. because we have these clusters out here. So we're gonna look on the other side of this tree and see if we can see more out to the point, like out around all these different vantage points. And because I think the plan is gonna be, we're gonna come back in with the camo blanket hide and just pick a spot on the shoreline, post up, and then see if we can shoot some cool ducks in the morning. So we just got to see if there's a way to get down here. It looks like there's a little trail coming down here. This will put us right on the point. Oh, snipe. That's what it was.
Oh, a snipe.
Yep.
That's cool.
Snipe just took off. Oh, this is perfect. Lots of grass for cover. Let's see how firm the bottom is here, or the grass. Yeah, firm ground. Oh, this is perfect. Yeah, so we can come out right out here, set up. Oh, what's that on that snag? Oh, that's neat. Great blue heron, like up on the snag. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna lay right here.
Right in front of the gators.
We'll just lay right here in the shoreline, camo over, and then we can shoot out all of this vantage point. All to the left, all out this way. That'll be great. Yeah, and the other reason is we're further away from the parking lot, and we noticed this morning there was a lot of fishermen coming in and out pretty early, so they were kind of keeping everything kind of pushed away. So this spot should work really good. We could go around this way and shoot backlit too, so I don't know, we'll have to see, but I think maybe just right out this way we'll kind of go both. We can shoot side light and front light, and then we'll get here nice and early to get that soft pastel again in the morning. Yeah, it's beautiful. So there we go, we got a plan. So we came in the morning, tons of ducks out here, nice variety of ducks. The main species is American coot. That's the most numerous thing. Then I'd say pied-billed grebes following that. Then yesterday there were some ringneck ducks, didn't see any of them, but there's also some lesser scaup and some canvasbacks, which was high on my list. Didn't get any photographs of them today. They just kind of kept their distance. And let's see what else. There's some cormorants here, mostly double crested, but I think there's also some neotropic. Don't think we saw any of them this morning. Anyway, a nice variety of birds. And so the plan was, I'm going to show you right now. So after we scouted yesterday morning and shot a little bit, we definitely shot the light in the morning. Once the light got strong and harsh like this, we started walking around and scouting. And so parking lot's down there, you can see. So we walked all the way along there and came out to this peninsula here. And the main reason I came out to this peninsula is it allows you to shoot multiple directions here. So you can see we can shoot out to the left. You can see maybe those trees out there. They make some really cool kind of silhouette shapes in the morning. Sunrise is just to the left of where it is now. So basically right out here, sun came up. And then you can also shoot front light out this way because the sun is now at my back, as you can see right there. So anyway, this was a spot. We started kind of down in this corner over here. Basically just thinking I could shoot mostly out to the right here. Here, let me flip this around. So yeah, basically figuring I could shoot mostly out this way, but then also shoot out this way and get a little bit of side light, maybe even point back into some backlit kind of silhouette stuff. All right, I'll show you again what we're doing here. We quickly realized that we couldn't shoot around the bend enough, this sort of bend here, this curve, because we were positioned too far over here. So then we ended up moving over to where you see all the setup there, and let me go show you the setup here. So here's the setup. You come right down by the water level. The mat is certainly not required, but is nice for comfort and to just keep dry, especially when it's colder. It's nice to not have to wear waterproof clothing and all that, or at least if you have some waterproof clothing, you just get less messy, and it's more comfortable on the mat, especially when the ground is really cold. It helps keep you insulated a little bit more. So hang on, let me set this up here. I'm just going to drop this down. So yeah, we got the yoga mat over here, and then shooting the camera, the big lens this morning. I was shooting the big lens. Emily was shooting a 100 to 400. She did great with that. This is the 400 2.8, and I can switch the teleconverter, and it's built in, so I can go to 560 f4, which is nice. But I'm on the ground pod here with just regular gimbal, so I can kind of pan and tilt around as needed. And then the other part of the gear this morning was this camo throw hide. And basically it's got, I don't know if you can see this here, probably not when it's backlit. Let me turn around and show you in some better light here. All right, there we go. So it has some net material right here. That's what you look through. And then it also has an opening down here somewhere. I'll have to find it at some point. Here you go. Opening right here for the lens, okay? So the lens sticks out this. You just kind of cinch this around it, then you're completely inside of the thing and you look out the net. So we started the morning that way, but I will tell you, it is a giant pain in the butt to shoot through this setup. You know, basically it's hard to see, the camo kind of falls in your way sometimes. It's hard to see out of the netting, but it does keep you completely concealed. We both got kind of tired of that pretty quickly, and something I do often, I basically just we get out of the hide, take the camo, drape it across the camera in front of you, so it hides like your outline. It helps to break that up a little bit, and hides any hand movement or panning and stuff like that, especially if you're on a ground pod. And I've generally found that works pretty well. You can see we have some medium height kind of rough grass here, so we were laying down in that. I think that helped, but we were both wearing all black. I think if we would have wore like a camo pattern, that would have broken us up a little bit. We were just big, large black objects laying on the shoreline here, so we kind of had a good peripheral of ducks the whole morning. They were pretty aware that we were here. Sometimes the pied bills would just kind of surface nice and close. We had a blue-winged teal that just kind of swung in behind right around this point right here and came right by us. It obviously didn't know we were here. And then we did have the least grebes, which you'll see in the video. They came swimming out towards us from the cattails, just kind of came out in the middle, just hanging out, almost like curious, which I've seen pied-bill grebes do as well in the past. So I think that's sort of a grebe thing. The rest of the duck species all were keeping a good distance out there, not able to kind of have them come in closer. So I think if we really, really wanted to do it, we would have needed to just either stay in the camo hides or wear camo and then use the drape, and just probably get here a little bit earlier, settle in, no movement. We ended up switching spots partway through when it was brighter. That didn't help. So those sorts of movements, I think, prevented it from being maybe as good as it could have been, but we still had a great morning, and we were sort of choosing comfort. This was Emilie's first time doing this sort of photography, so I didn't want to push her too hard, and we're just trying to make it a little bit more fun and comfortable. So that's basically everything that went into this morning's shoot. Now you're gonna watch the shoot in a little bit and see how it all went down. You'll see some of the stuff we got shooting into the sun. I started out manual because everything was pretty consistent, but as I started shooting into the sun, the light was changing really fast. So off to the left and right of the sun, it was pretty dark. I needed a higher ISO, slower shutter speed. Then when it got right into the sun, when birds are swimming through it, the shutter speed would skyrocket, the ISO drop. And so I wanted to be able to have that change really fast and just still be able to pay attention to my composition and everything and not have to worry about settings. So I went to aperture priority auto ISO, which I think worked out quite nicely for those sorts of things. And then I basically stayed there the rest of the day because we got plenty of light at that point, and I think I was able to basically get everything else. So yeah, a fun morning. We still shot a nice variety of ducks. I think there's going to be some really good shots from this, and yay for a really nice portrait of a lifer. Nothing super creative with the least grebes, but beautiful portraits with this nice background here. And I'm going to show you once more. You'll see it in the actual shoot, but this is the background right back here. And so it's these cattails right there. When the bird was halfway from here to the cattails, I was able to get that out of focus enough. So it was just this sort of green, brownish, and the water was calmer, so it was reflecting really nicely. So that was kind of the setup. If the birds were too close to that, you got no separation. If they went out to the left of it, like off the point of the island, like right in there, then you had a really distant background, so that was cool. I shot some coots that way and maybe got a ruddy duck that way as well. So there you go. That's the setup, guys. And here, I'll give you one more scan of the area. Let you see what it looks like. And then we'll get to the shoot. All right, I'll see you there.
Good morning, everyone. Let's try and photograph some waterfowl. All right, before sunrise, laying down on the shoreline here. A little bit more windy than I would have liked, but a beautiful morning. Started out with these coots way out at a distance, but the only thought I had was, once you see these flocks of blackbirds and grackles flying around, maybe I can do something with that. So I started thinking, after a little bit, let me slow the shutter speed down. There we go. So I went down to 80th of a second to start out with, and I'm trying to manage the ISO, and then 40th of a second. So I'm trying to get a sharp coot in the water while letting these flying birds blur in the background, then down to 25th of a second. Turns out I think I needed even slower of a shutter speed, or those birds needed to be flying faster by, because those shots didn't turn out exactly as I had hoped. And the light's not that great. But trying to think creatively, trying to think of something different. All right, started getting a little bit brighter. We're starting to just get a little bit more color in the sky. Not quite full sun yet, but brighter direction. These coots are way out in the distance. I'm zoomed in here. I just kind of wanted to show you them. Then look at this pied-billed grebe. You can see them swimming right there while these grackles and blackbirds are still all flying around. Pied-billed dove, so didn't get on him yet, but gonna have plenty of opportunities with them. But I just want to give you a sense of what it's like. You're just laying by the shoreline here. A lot of these birds are way out there, but if you have enough distance behind them, you can still make something happen, especially if the light and the background cooperate. It all would have been better with less wind. All right, here's a pied-billed grebe out at a distance here. 80th of a second should be enough to get a sharp photo as long as the bird and myself are holding still. But he dove and then he was gone. So we'll just hang out and wait and see if anything more shows up. You got some beautiful colors in the sky though. It's hard to see them when the water's ripply though. Look what it looks like through the lens. See how the water's kind of light? If it was calm, it would reflect that color a lot better and the shots would be better. In any case, I'm always monitoring the brightness of everything. It's hard to see exactly how bright and dark it is based on these wide angle views because the camera adjusts for it, but you can see up to 200th of a second. Now we got this grebe swimming in closer. Notice how I'm composing it every time. More space in the direction he's looking over and over again. That being said, that bird is cruising right there, 200th of a second. Maybe enough for a sharp photo. He's moving pretty consistent, which is good, but he was moving away the whole time there. He finally chilled out, and now he's kind of facing towards me. So every time he turns a different way, notice I'm trying to give the composition with more space in the direction he's looking, but he didn't stay up there that long. And again, the light's not that great at this point anyway. All right, now this is a much better background. Look at that. We have some tone back there, some depth to it. The water's a little bit calmer. The light's looking a little bit better. So those were some potential shots. Then he starts swimming away again. Like, knock it off, bird. Swim towards me. All right, sun's about to happen here. This is right after we moved locations and gave ourselves the opportunity to shoot into the sun. And here's some of these trees covered with the grackles and other blackbirds over there. But I'm going to mainly concentrate on the waterfowl. So I don't know if you can see in the left and the bottom there's a duck swimming around. There he is, pied-billed grebe. Give him some space. And then I'm going to go with the second one just because he was in more color there. Neither of them panned out. I should have followed them further, but I think I just got distracted with other birds, and that's a challenging thing. I was also trying to manage my settings at that point, so I switched to auto ISO, set my minimum shutter speed to 500th of a second with aperture priority, and now I can get a little bit more control out of what's happening instead of manually dialing everything in, because I'm swinging from shooting into the sun like this, where look, I'm up to 1,000th of a second at 400 ISO. These birds aren't working, just some coots. I'm just keeping an eye on them, see if anybody shapes up, but they're intersecting that black too much because they're not close enough to me, so it's not working. Out in this direction is where I need them to be. But in any case, if I swing my camera to the right, all of a sudden the exposure is vastly different, and so I want to be able to change that quickly. All right, here we go. We got a coot heading towards the sun. Look at this. See what the aperture priority does for me? It just automatically goes up. I have a little bit of negative exposure comp dialed in, and then bam, right there. Wait for him to swim into that sunbeam. Okay, let's watch that again. All right, so he starts out over here. It's a fine silhouette. I did ditch the teleconvert so I could show more scenery. And now I notice the sun reflecting there, and that to me is going to be the best shot just for alignment purposes. So see how that looks? He is in the brightest spot in the water he could be. It graphically just works out, and it makes sense that he's there instead of on either side of it. Not that those shots on either side of it are really bad, but if you can time it when the bird goes right in something like that lines up, I think it really makes the photo kind of the next step, like the next level. So out here, just regular silhouettes. I'm shooting some of these. I didn't end up editing any, but they're totally fine. And then he goes into a background that's a little bit more graphically interesting with these dead snags back there. Wait for a good profile, warm it up a little bit in post, and you got a great shot. Now this again pays to try and make sure he lines up. Maybe some of those things frame over top of him. Imagine if it was calm and you could see the full reflection of those snags in the water, then you could use them for framing in the water. That would be really cool. But unfortunately, I didn't get that. So you can see them, just those dots. They're swimming really far away, but these are still really cool shots. A lot of people, I think, would ignore these opportunities. Here's another one right there. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Of course, he turned his head right when that happened. So I didn't have a good shape out of him. And I will say, right when they hit the sun, watch, here comes another attempt. It's hard to maintain focus. You'll probably notice that sometimes. A little bit of negative exposure compensation, max out the shutter speed. That one was decent, but the sun is brighter at this point, and so I wasn't able to get an exposure in it like I did earlier. So that's why that shot ended up being better. But in any case, taking advantage of these silhouettes or just these water scenes when the birds are really far away, when everything lines up and you have a distant enough background, it makes sense. Trying vertical here, totally blew focus, and he went through so quickly I just kind of wasn't ready for him. So that's something that happens. So I stayed vertical for a little bit here just to see if another bird would swim back through the sun. We got this pied-bill grebe. Trying to track him, just can't catch focus on him. There we go, finally got it. He's going to go through, and then right when he goes through, that's when I lose focus. See that? It's so bright that the camera easily grabs focus on something else. Sometimes it pays to lock your focus right in that moment. All right, so we're just going to try some regular silhouettes of this pied-bill grebe. Again, notice the water. See that little bit of ripple on it? It just gives a little texture to the water, makes it harder for that silhouette to stand out. It's not much, but a minor distraction. I got this bird composed. Look at all these birds. Always bottom left, really far to the extreme, given a lot of space in front and above the direction they're looking. Here's another coot swimming through. There we go. That one should work. And there's nothing wrong with having the overexposed sun. It's just nicer when you don't have it. So on this particular morning, that was only very early. All right, I'm just going to stay with this coot for a little bit. Just keep him composed off to the left there, waiting for that bird in the background to get out of the way. But he never did. All right, this is where aperture priority with auto ISO really comes into play. I'm going to swing to the right because all of a sudden a blue-winged teal showed up over here. Now look at my settings, 0.05 of a second, and the ISO goes up. Watch as I track this bird. Number one, keeping him in the bottom right of the frame, trying to pay attention to that composition. The light is kind of crap, especially with this water, but watch the settings. Look, now the ISO is bottomed out at 400, which is my minimum ISO. And now the shutter speed's going up for me as he swings into this more silhouetted type shot. I didn't change a thing. I'm just tracking him, paying attention to my composition. I don't have to change a setting. How great is that? That to me is the win of this setup. Now let's track him across into the silhouette. Beautiful silhouette. Then we get the sun. But look what I did. I messed up. Number one, he's out of focus a little bit, so I lost focus. But number two, look at my composition. I clipped the top of the sun off. So I should either include that sun or I should have cropped the sun out altogether and went just with reflection. So I definitely messed up that one. It could have been a cool silhouette of him, but that's okay. At least I tried. But how cool is that those settings change so dramatically without me doing a thing, and it keeps my exposure. I get to see my exposure as I'm shooting and control it with exposure compensation as needed. All right, playing around with these coots way out further there. Just trying to see if any of them shape up with a good silhouette. I got to watch these guys when they're that far away. See how close they are? He dove to that shoreline now. I didn't want them to intersect. And look at this again, switching right back over to a pied-bill grebe, front lit. He dove really quick. All right, we're getting a little bit more sun now. I'm probably going to stop concentrating on shooting into the sun at that point because the silhouettes are just getting a little harsh and I'm losing color in there in the sky on the sunrise side. So I'll swing over here and just pay attention to these guys. Now, this is a great example of small in frame, yet look how distant the background is. Even at 400 millimeter right here, I have nice separation. The bird stands out fine. If this was a more pretty scene, a more pretty bird, the bird doing something interesting, calmer water, any of those things or all of those things combined would add up to a totally fine shot. And look how far away they are. I know it's exaggerated in the wide view, but they're way out there. You know, they're pretty far out. All right, now we got some scaup coming in. Let's see if these guys head any closer. Actually, I know they don't. They just stay out at a distance. There, I'll just zoom in on them to check them out. It's fun to watch the group of them mixed in with the coots like that. I'm taking some of these shots anyway. The light is getting really nice. Look at that golden light on them. Oh, it's really pretty. But they're just kind of a mess right now. It's just a flock of birds. Don't really need to be shooting that, you know? What I want to wait for is an interesting position with a group of them, and that's going to happen in a little bit. So even when the birds are out far like this, I do pay attention to them because, look, I have the background separation. That's the important part. I'm composing them lower in the frame so I get the nice tree line back there. And here we go. Now I got this pair, or this trio here. And look at them. They're all lining up. If I get 2 of them looking one way or all of them looking into the center or something like that, there can be an interesting lineup. So definitely shooting through here when they're all generally on the same focal plane is something fun to try because my background is clean and non-distracting. The water's calm-ish. The light's decent. So there's a shot that could be had here. Now the one on the left is in the back. It's kind of stacked, so that's no good. But here we go. They're kind of separating. Nope, not yet. So I'm just waiting. Let's see if they'll separate again. And those 2 on the left are just making a mess out of everything. But here we go. They're separated a little bit, so we'll grab one like that and then ditch that one on the right because he's not really a part of it anymore. Then a coot comes up in the way. Now, I could just crop those in a little bit better and get something, but, you know, we'll see. All right, I did go back to the silhouette side because some bufflehead flew in there. You can see how high and bright the sun was. And then watch this. All of a sudden, they're going to take off. Watch the focus. It doesn't track perfectly. See how it's a little off? But it didn't matter. The photo was tack sharp. So the focus actually was working. I think it's just the focus indicator didn't keep up. And my settings were high enough because of aperture priority with auto ISO. It bumped them up for me automatically. Check it out. 16,000th of a second. Even as it moves to the right, further away from the sun, when the shutter speed drops, it's still staying up really high. Again, I didn't have to do any of that. All I had to do was pay attention to keeping the bird in the frame and trying my best to focus. Okay, after that, I switched back to complete front light. The sun was really bright at that point, and so now I'm just shooting the front light setup. I had moved around to the right, so the sun was at my back, and now we're just paying attention to that. This coot's not bad. Look, if the water was better, I think I'd have a shot there. But if you've never shot one, like, this is a fine shot, you know? Now it's a bad composition, so let's switch. And then, of course, he dives. But this is what the setup looks like, laying on the shoreline there. Sorry I focused on the foreground grasses there. I hadn't noticed that. But you can see the birds out there. You can see the coot just surfaced again. Now, look, as he goes to the right, the background gets more interesting. I'll ditch the teleconverter, show more habitat. And look at this. This is a nice balanced composition here with the bird on the left, the grasses out to the right, with a distant background for separation. So the bird and the grasses are all on the same focal plane. It looks really nice. When they're in front of the grasses, it looks horrible. No separation here. Even though the bird's technically closer, this photo does not work. It's just too busy. He blends in. There's no separation between the bird and the background. See that? When you're zoomed in, look how detailed the background is. Whereas previously, when he was way out to the left like this, look how far away the background is. We get the distance. And this, everyone, is also the reason to be low. Okay? Look how far away my background is. It's the opposite shoreline. Okay, now he's mixed up in there. It's not working. But that's the important lesson here is being low and finding a distant background is so important and key. Or if you do have these closer backgrounds like this clump of cattails, you need the bird a lot closer to you. Okay, and you'll see that play out in just a little bit with another bird. All right, I'm going to swing over to the right here. Let's see what we got. So here we go. Look, here goes pied-bill grebe. He's a little closer. Background's not bad, but watch this. As he swims away and gets closer to that background, it's going to get more and more in focus back there. Again, paying attention to keep the bird in the bottom right of the frame there because that's the way he's facing. But look at this. See how the background's getting more and more in focus, less separation? It doesn't look as good. Whereas when he first started out, he was much more blurred. Watch this. Let's cut back to that real quick. See this? So much more blur in the background because the bird is closer. Same settings, f2.8. And let's look at them compared to each other. See how much more blur I have on the right? The right is less contrasty because I'm shooting through some grass in the foreground. But look how much cleaner and more distant and blurred that background is compared to the left where the bird is closer to the background. It makes a big difference. It's something you really have to pay attention to when shooting. All right, so back to the live video. Let's see what this bird does. I'm always just paying attention to keep my composition in case something happens, you know, a good flap or something like that. In this case, I should probably just be abandoning it because that background's not great. But you never know, he could swim towards me. The light is really nice, so the light is working well. And you'll see later, I'll be shooting this exact same background. There, I missed that ruffle. But again, the background wouldn't have been nice. But later, I'll be shooting this exact same background with a bird coming closer. Oh, here we go. Is he coming towards me? Maybe. Look, it's already getting a little bit better. Here we go. Look at that. Now, as he comes closer, I'll switch the teleconverter out, and then I don't know if he heard me do that or what, but all of a sudden it was just like on that point he decided to turn and go back the other way. So that was that. All right, so look at this though. Further away, smaller in frame, but the background is so far away. I got great layers here. The blue, the green. There's a ruddy duck now. Same thing. Get out of the way, Coot. Thank you. And then everybody's gone. But you can see what a difference it makes when the background's really far away. In this case, further away than I am to the subject. But look how far out that bird is. He's way out on that point out there. It's really far away. All right, here's the least grebes. These were a wonderful surprise. So see them pinned on that background, not looking great. But thankfully, these birds were friendly, curious, and came right out, started swimming around. Oh, I only saw the one first, but watch this. So I'm just tracking him. I'm shooting like crazy already because this is the first time I've ever seen the bird. I don't know if this is the only shot and opportunity I'm going to get. Watch, every time he swings one way, look, I slam the composition to try and take advantage of it. Most of the time, honestly, though, it's easier to just stay in one composition. But in this case, the eye tracking really helps. Look at this. Now look how much blurred the background is because he swam towards me. I ditched the teleconverter. Look at this. You can just see him right there off to the right side, swimming in between the grasses there. So now that he's closer, look how pretty that background is. It's beautiful. Switch the teleconverter and get a head-on shot like that. I'm just letting the camera do all the work for the settings. I have a little bit of positive exposure compensation in because he's a dark bird, like 2/3. But the camera's keeping me at 12/50th of a second. My ISO is really low, and I'm just playing with composition or my exposure compensation there. I brought it a little darker to make things a little richer. And by darker, I just went neutral. But look, I'm getting some wonderful portraits. I'm just paying attention to keeping focus, making sure I compose, give him space in the direction he's looking. The water is thankfully calmer there. Look, this is the second bird showed up. I hadn't even noticed it until I saw that second bird swim in the viewfinder there. So now we have two, a little bit more challenging to shoot. They look like they're going to swim away, then they come back. They're just all over the place. They're funny little guys. So damn cute. Harder to know what to do. Oh, look, it looked like the one just tried to grab a bug. That's super cool. Harder to know what to do compositionally with the both of them, so I threw the teleconverter in and tried to ditch the other one, basically. And that's what I'm doing here, and that's what gave me this nice close portrait. But that's it, folks. I mean, that's pretty much it. You know, letting the camera do the work for me. When there's plenty of light like this, I get to just pay attention to composition. That being said, the light is very consistent. I could have set the camera on manual and just set these settings and forgotten about them as well. So that's another way for it to work. Any of those exposure methods would work just fine. I'm basically just playing with composition, waiting for something interesting to happen, either behavior, interesting moment, interesting lineup. Nothing more really turned out great. Just trying to get some portraits of these guys. Again, I've never seen them, so I was definitely shooting more than I normally would. I do have the shutter sound turned off because waterfowl are a little bit more cautious. Now look at this, out to the right, further away background, look how clean it gets. But notice the lack of contrast because I'm shooting through all the grass. See all this grass right here in front of me? The lens is shooting right through all of that. When I go out to the right, it's going through a bunch more of it, and that's what cuts down on that contrast that you see there. As long as I'm shooting straight out, there's just a couple of pieces of grass, it's not a big deal. All right, common gallinule, swimming over it. Look at these grasses. Beautiful right there. Now it's a little bit busier because he's on a closer background, but watch. It's going to keep swimming through. No good background, no good background. It's still a little too busy. He's still too close to that background. But as he moves right, the background gets further away. And then all of a sudden, he's going to kind of clear that island. There. See it starting to get cleaner further away? Now I got the separation. Look at that. Nice clean background. The light is certainly starting to get strong, but I think it still works as long as you're shooting completely front light. He went and got tangled up in that mess. Not too good, and I'm shooting through so much grass at this point. Look at it. It looks like there's like a fog over the lens, and that's just because I'm shooting through so much stuff there. All right, so that's kind of about it. We're going to pay attention to a few more ducks out there. The canvasbacks finally showed up way out. I was hoping that they would swim in. So let's watch them. We got 2 males and a female out there with some coots. Light's too strong. Background is too close to them. I got to say, if it was calm and flat, I still might take this shot. That background's actually not bad. The green line and the trees back there were kind of cool. They're even better here. A little bit more out of focus. Maybe not better, but just different. But the choppy water is just a little too distracting. The light's really strong. And there's a lot of other birds in the way. So I never really got the opportunity I wanted. But overall, a really fun morning. I hope you enjoyed this experience shooting waterfowl with me and can put some of these techniques and concepts into practice to be able to get some of your own great waterfowl photos.